Alicia, and welcome back to the E&E podcast. Uh, it's Sunday. What's today? Today's September 5th, and I just feel like many of us are uh, feeling like we're at our wits' end, or we're feeling as if there's no hope. We're feeling like everything that we knew about this country has been flipped upside down, and it continues to increase in that way. But I will say to, to that many of us that feel that way, this might be your first time feeling that way. And I just want you to understand that these feelings are, they don't go unnoticed. And, here we are. Here we are, living, breathing, and feeling this intensity that is so unnecessary, right? Like it's very, very unnecessary. And to start right off with the podcast like that, it's not going to be something that obviously we're talking about that's going to be super light, right? If you have not been aware of what's going on in Chicago, there are military style raids that have taken place in Chicago. Black people have been detained in Chicago as well, not just adults. We're talking about children as well, older individuals, so older age individuals. You name it, ICE has been detaining these folks. And even though I have an article that I'm going to share some information from that article from Time about this story, I just wanted to start out and say to y'all, as a Black American who has experienced racism and violence in this country on various levels, this is America. This is how America has operated in our community since the beginning of time. And I wanted to start out and say that because this is nothing that's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing this to my community, right? This is not a shock to Black folks. So I just want to start out there. Um, it doesn't feel good that your own country, the country that your ancestors built, and if it weren't for my ancestors, this country wouldn't be what it is today in terms of the wealth that it has accrued by way of free labor and exploitation. But if that's the origin story of this country, and folks have not healed from that origin story, I'm talking about Black, white, and everyone else in between. If we've not taken time to heal from that story, how can we expect for this country to be anything different than what it is right now, if not worse? So I just wanted to, clear that up as best as I can for folks who might be confused. Like, aren't you enraged? Shouldn't you guys be in the streets protesting? Shouldn't this be happening? Shouldn't that be happening? And to that, I say, you don't know us. You may think you know Black people, but you don't know us. And our mystery of how we handle and manage things will remain that. We will talk amongst ourselves. We will do what we have to do to maintain um, our status of being in this country and in this world. But as it relates to just Black Americans, and I'm talking about Black Americans who get it, and Black Americans who can look at each other. Like we literally have a telepathic type of communication that is just unmatched, and I can't explain it. I can look at another Black person, especially in a certain situation, and we can instantly just talk to each other by way of just looking at each other. We understand each other in that gaze, in that interaction. No words need to be said because we just understand each other in that way. So for those who are, feeling helpless, know that this is what this country does to Black people, Black bodies. This is nothing new. The raids that are happening in Chicago are horrible, to say the least. And my people should not have to deal with this. But this is America. This is America. This is how this country operates. This is the nastiness of white supremacy. This is the nastiness of folks that just want to remain in power. This is the nastiness of the origins of folks that have, for centuries on end, have tried to maintain a status that is rooted and grounded in toxicity and nastiness and evil. And for those who are the products of these folks, the hope is that you do better. The hope is that you do better and that you fight against the system and that you start dismantling white supremacy, not just obviously within yourself, but also amongst those that you are communing with on a daily basis, whether that be your friends, your family, coworkers, because it's nothing for a Black person. And this is not for me, this is not me just, shooting down Black people because I'm a Black person, but it is nothing for us to say that we are struggling. It is nothing for us to get out in these streets to protest because it's been happening. We have been sounding the alarm that the injustices of our people is at the forefront of pretty much everything that happens in this country, right? And then you'll find subsets of folks that also get put in the fire. But at the end of the day, it is Black people. It is our energy. It is our essence. It is everything who we are that folks want to try to consume and take. And I don't know if you've seen the movie Sinners, but it would do you some good to see that movie because it speaks in various ways. But in one particular thing that I took away from that movie, and you can go back and watch it and find something different every time. I mean, it's wild. But one thing I remember offhand is there is a character by the name of Remick, and his uh, and I'm not saying this is his main focus, but he is a culture vulture. He is someone who wants to take the energy of Black people and use it for his longevity as a vampire. That vulture mentality, that vampire characteristic of who he is, speaks to white supremacy. And it's tied up in a very subtle bow because he is an Irish man who obviously is not from money, but he is being used in a way to um, lure Black folks into, being sucked up by way of their energy to maintain this dark energy within uh, that particular area of America, which I believe that was in the Delta. That was Mississippi Delta, I think. Um, but what the focus of that movie was. And so in order to maintain that type of um energy to just kind of like uphold all of that. I'm blanking on words here, y'all, but they need that energy from the people around. And yeah, so I mean that's a piece of it. But I encourage you just in general just to watch that movie and just to see that the violence and the things that were taking place in that movie were not that it was everything was factual, but it definitely pertained to facts that have taken place throughout history as it relates to Black people in the South and even Black people just in general. And so this is nothing new as we come back to this current time and see these raids that are escalating in places like Chicago. Chicago is the test, in my opinion. I feel like Chicago is the place where this administration feels like, okay, if we can get away with this here, on to the next city, and then on to the next city, right? And to where we are um, invoking fear in ways where we can control and do what we really want to do, which is maintain the power of this entire country and not just crack down on Black folks and even brown folks, but right now it's the focus of Black people because it's to create this whole idea of, oh, if they can get people who are actually citizens, um, then who are the next citizens that we can detain and control and get to do what we want them to do, right? Who are the next ones? Who do you think would be the next ones, right? We're in class right now. Let's raise our hands. Who would be the next one? I'll raise my hand and just say it. It's going to be the everyday white person that has been upholding this racist regime and has been doing the dirty work of these folks who have been pretending that everyday white people are really a part of their class set, their class in terms of, whiteness. Whiteness was just a creation. Whiteness is a creation, y'all. And I don't know how many times we have to say that, but this is something that was created to maintain a power that allows the people on top to do what they are doing. Because of whiteness, and it was funny, I just listened to a creator on TikTok and I was like, this is beautifully said. But if whiteness really was the ticket to prosperity, abundance, and all the beautiful things that they profess it to be, why are all these white farmers in this position that they're in? Why are so many people in the Appalachian areas and in other rural areas in this country struggling financially? Healthcare is in the toilet. Their health is at risk. Why are these people struggling like this? If whiteness is really the ticket to prosperity, health, wealth, all those things, how are you still struggling? How are you still struggling? It's something to think about. And as hard as it may be for you to realize that you are really not a part of that group, George Carlin, and I'm pretty sure a lot of white folks love George Carlin. I loved George Carlin because he just told stuff like it was. And he basically said, there is a club that runs this country and basically the world. And many of y'all think, I'm paraphrasing, but many of y'all think y'all are in the club and you're not. You're nowhere near the club and you're not going to be in the club because they don't want you. But they'll lie to you. They'll tell you your skin color is the thing that gets you, the praise and the glory and the admiration. Being white in this society is top tier. It's not, boo. Not even close. It's not. And that's not me saying it to make you feel less than or anything of that nature. It is to wake you up and realize. And I've been saying this since I was a young person. It just baffles me because I grew up in Evansville, Indiana. If you know anything about Evansville, Indiana, there's every type of person you can imagine in terms of class. I wouldn't say race. I didn't grow up seeing anyone but basically Black and white folks. Every once in a while, we had people from different countries. Like we had foreign exchange students from China, um, folks who opened different Asian restaurants that lived in Evansville. We were exposed to them, and a few kids that were Asian that were in our classes at school. I think we had a few East Indian people, very few. but I grew up around nothing but Black and white folks. So for me, I saw firsthand the ridiculousness of white supremacy, and almost in a comical way. I had to take it as comedy in a way, and I shouldn't say comedy, but it was comical to me, 'cause I'm looking around at these kids at my school. Okay, I'm talking about white folks, white kids, and they would tell me, or I would hear by way of certain conversations, how they were struggling, how their parents were struggling, and my family, we were middle class Black people. You know, my parents didn't struggle like that. I mean, my family, my grandparents would help us, sometimes if we needed to, buy clothes and things of that nature, because it was six of us. I mean, let's be serious. But my mom didn't start working until late in her life. My dad held it down. Um, my mom eventually, took on a job, and the job that she did take on, it was a leadership position. She was the director of a senior citizen center in Evansville, Indiana. She helped create initiatives for folks, elderly folks that would attend senior citizen centers. She spearheaded, traveling for older individuals, mainly Black folks. I don't think we really had that many white folks at our senior citizen center, because it's Evansville, Indiana. Let's be serious. Especially back then in the 80s, up until the 90s. My mom, no, actually, I think my mom worked to the 2000s, but that's not even the point. But the point of it is, she was a pretty established person in her profession, as well as, she's a very well-known person in our city. But that didn't mean anything. That didn't mean anything to white folks back home that were racist, right? Because we were still Black. It meant nothing. And it's not a thing like, oh, my mom or my family should have been praised because we were in a better financial bracket, or whatever. But it didn't matter what we did to progress in this country. We still were seen less than. And it was wild to me, because like I said, I would hear these kids talking about the struggles of just trying to make it day to day. I saw firsthand kids getting free lunch. And there were some Black kids getting free lunch too, and it is what it is, but there were equal amounts of white kids getting free lunch. You see what I'm saying? So, this whole idea of whiteness being the meal ticket, and no pun intended, but literally is a sham. It's a sham. Full on sham. And it is sad that it is still a thing that so many people cannot wrap their heads around, that their actual skin color is actually what they're using to make you feel like you're better than, but it is actually your demise. It is your demise. I'm not saying you being like a fair skin color is your demise. Your mentality of thinking that whiteness is going to be the thing, is going to be your demise, because it is not saving you now, and it's not going to save you in the future. It has not saved your ancestors in the past. Think about how many people in your family, especially if you did not grow up with any wealth, and you have been, a part of generational poverty, or you've been in a position where, you know, you've just never been like financially stable. Or maybe you have been, and now things have turned around and you're a white person. Where are the benefits of your skin color right now? Where are the benefits? And so it's something to think about, y'all. It is something to think about. And I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to say all this before I started reading this article, because I want folks to know that we are hurting for our Black brothers and sisters, and the children and the older individuals that are suffering in Chicago And this is not something that we're just like brushing off. Trust me, we're not brushing this off, but we're also being very strategic on how we move in this situation, because the hope is that they can be, or that we can be, um, affected in a way that we're going to get out in these streets and act a damn fool so they can take and feed, like any culture vulture, like any vampire, feed off our energy to provoke something like martial law or something to that effect. And then also say, and use that old, thing that they've been using forever. You see, we told you these black people, they're animalistic. They are, so violent. They are this, they are that. Guys, these patterns are so old, and it's so apparent, and it's really, at the end of the day, pathetic, because the fact that this is the only way you can maintain power, or so-called power, is beyond pathetic. And I question everything as it relates to you and your leadership skills, because this is just ridiculous, right? So yeah, this week's article that is focusing on this particular topic comes from Time, and it's entitled "Military Style ICE Raid on Chicago Apartment Building Shows Escalation in Trump's Crackdown." Now, this is written by Rebecca Schneid, or Schneid, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this person's last name. So it starts off and it says, at around 1 a.m. on Tuesday morning, armed federal agents rappelled from helicopters onto the roof of a 5-story residential apartment in the South Shore of Chicago. The agents worked their way through the building, kicking down doors and throwing flash bang grenades around up adults, rounding up adults, and screaming children alike, detaining them in zip ties and arresting dozens, according to witnesses and local reporting. The military style raid was part of a widening immigration crackdown by the Trump administration in the country's third largest city, dubbed Operation Midway Blitz, which has brought a dramatic increase in federal raids and arrests. It has also drawn outrage throughout Chicago and the state of Illinois, with rights groups and lawmakers claiming it represents a dramatic escalation in tactics used by federal authorities in the pursuit of Trump's aggressive immigration crackdown. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker accused the federal agents of separating children from their parents, zip tying their hands, and detaining them in dark vans for hours. Videos of the raid showed flashbang grenades erupting on the street, followed by residents of the building, children among them, being led to a parking lot across the street. Photos of the aftermath show toys and shoes littering the apartment hallways that were left in the chaos as people were pulled from their beds by the operation that included FBI and Homeland Security agents. I'm just going to stop there for a second. Um, One, just to get myself together and allow you guys just to process all that. I mean, because as we're thinking of all that, right? So it's like these babies being zip tied, um, and left in dark spaces for hours, not with their parents. How are you okay with that? White people, how are you okay with that? Think about your children. Think about um, you just hearing helicopters above you. You're just at home sleeping. You're like, what the heck is that noise? And before you know it, you're being detained by FBI or Homeland Security agents. For what reason? You don't know. You're thinking in your head, okay, what did I do? Like, I I've not done anything. Like, what? Right? Middle of the night. The hope is that you're resting, and that you're able to, like, you know, prepare for the next day, whatever that looks like. You put your kids to bed and all these things, and then that's what's happening in your home. Say, excuse me. So imagine that, and think about what I said earlier, right? That this, if this continues, if this administration continues on with this type of behavior, who's to say you're not next? Who's to say that you're not next? And I'm not saying that, like, oh, you must get out and protest so you won't be next, but get out and protest because this is just not right, right? Get out and do things that would allow for folks to see that you're just as outraged and upset as because we're human beings and we're American citizens, right? Yeah. Uh, The article goes on to say military style tactics. And they're talking about that here. It says Pritzker condemned the raid and said that he would work with local law enforcement to hold the agents accountable. Military style tactics should never be used on children in a functioning democracy, he said in a statement on Friday. This didn't happen in a country with an authoritarian regime. It happened here in Chicago. It happened in the United States of America, a country that should be um, I'm sorry, a bastion of freedom, hope, and the rights of our people as guaranteed by the Constitution, he added. The Department of Homeland Security has touted some 900 arrests in its Chicago operation since it began in early September, as well as 37 arrests made in the nighttime raid on Tuesday, all of whom it said were involved in drug trafficking and distribution, weapons, crimes, and immigration violators. The DHS said the building was targeted because it was known to be frequented by Trinde Aragua members, and their associates. Although it has yet to be released the names of those who were arrested. DHS Christy Nome, Secretary, DHS Secretary, I'm sorry, Christy Nome posted a video of the raid on social media, overlaid with dramatic music showing helicopters shining bright lights onto the apartment, armed agents kicking down doors, leading people out of the building, and restraints. And in this article, I'm going to share the article here um, in the show notes so you guys can see there is a link where you can actually click on this X video that she has posted showing just that, what I mentioned in that paragraph, or in that sentence rather. A DHS spokesperson told CNN following the raid that children were taken into custody for their own safety and to ensure these children were not being trafficked, abused, or otherwise exploited. The DHS also said that 4 children who are U.S. citizens with undocumented parents were taken into custody. President Donald Trump has repeatedly threatened to send federal authorities and troops to Chicago and other Democratic cities to assist in immigration raids and to address what he perceives to be rampant crime. White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson said on Saturday that the president has authorized the deployment of 300 Illinois National Guard members to Chicago, citing what she called ongoing violent riots and lawlessness. Governor Pritzker condemned the deployment as a manufactured performance. This morning, the Trump administration's Department of War gave me the ultimatum: call your troops or we will, Pritzker said in a statement. It is absolutely outrageous and un American to demand a governor send military troops within our own borders and against our will. The Trump administration launched expanded immigration enforcement operations in Chicago on September 8th as part of a wider federal crackdown on sanctuary cities across the country. This operation will target the worst of the worst: criminal, illegal aliens in Chicago Immigration and Customs Enforcement, um, which is ICE. Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said on of the operation. The article goes on and it talks about, the zip ties and the guns. It talks about the protest that is taking place, and I'll read some of that, and then I'll share some thoughts. So it says protests in the aftermath. The increased raids have turned Chicago into a flashpoint in the battle over Trump's crackdown. Protests have increased across the city in recent weeks over the ICE operations concentrated outside the ICE detention facility in the suburb of Broadview. One woman was shot by Border Patrol agents during a protest outside the facility on Saturday, the DHS announced. The agency said in a statement that its agents were rammed by vehicles and boxed in by 10 cars where and were forced to fire defensive when a su- and forced to fire defensive when a suspect tried to run them over. Sorry, y'all. One of the drivers who rammed the law enforcement vehicle was armed with semi-automatic weapons, spokeswoman Tricia McLaughlin said on social media. Law enforcement was forced to deploy their weapons and fire defensive shots at an armed U.S. citizen who drove herself to the hospital to get care for wounds. The woman was later released from the hospital, according to Chicago police. Protests continue at the facility. I I just I'm really at a loss when it comes to what, this actual administration is attempting to uh I shouldn't say I'm at a loss. It's just like I at this point it's like I just don't even uh want to imagine. That's literally what it is. I just don't want to imagine what the end game is for these folks. Um and obviously we know, they just want to have ultimate power and uh, to be able to, really invoke all the things or implement all the things rather that they have proposed in Project 2025 and just, evil and vileness in general. But as I mentioned earlier, even though all of this is happening and they'll continue to do things, they'll continue to attempt to rile up Black people enough to get us in the streets. Uh, we'll know when it's time for us to be in the streets. Um, we'll know. Just as I said earlier, we have been really honing in on who we are and our importance in this society because we're very important in this society, as much as folks don't want to admit that. Because if we weren't, why constantly attack us? Why constantly try to demonize us and make us look like we're these horrible individuals? Why even, bring attention to us, right? The time will come when Black folks will have the opportunity to shine, and that's what it's going to be. We will shine. It will not be what you think. We will shine, and I will just leave it at that. I'm going to share this article in the show notes. Right now, things seem really wild and hectic, and it's by design. But I encourage you all to stay as safe as possible. Keep raising your voice. Remove your money and your purchasing power from places and spaces that do not support Black and Brown folks and that are supporting this terror that we're seeing in Gaza. Remove your money from it. Remove yourself from those places and spaces that do not support folks um, and the betterment of marginalized people. Seriously, or at least minimize your attention and purchasing power in those places and spaces. We're going to be all right. It's rough and it's not going to be easy, but we have to keep moving forward. Black folks, I love you. We have withstood the test of time. We will continue to do so. This is not our first rodeo, our second, third, fourth, fifth. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Show love to the folks in Chicago the best way we know how. We don't need to display all that here, being completely honest and candid, because the trust is gone. Black folks we are all we got. And if we don't realize that now, I don't know when, but we know we are all we have. Um, Show love to those folks in Chicago. Let them know that we're there with them in spirit, and we will make it through. We will make it through. Like I said, I'll share this article in the show notes. Like I always say, y'all, let's just keep on keeping on. And I will see y'all next week. All right. I love y'all. Bye.